Hey guys, we're on the ground here at Tampa, and I wanted to make a quick video to show you the startup sequence for the Carenado Citation Excel. Just to preface this, I am not a flight instructor, I'm not type rated on this aircraft, but we are using the real world checklist and training materials, and with some modifications I guess that work for this aircraft. So with that, let's go into the cockpit here. It's a cold and dark cockpit, just wanted to point that out. The very first thing I do in order to ensure that is Shift 8, and that will bring up this menu here, which allows me to select cold and dark with all systems off. Press Done. You heard the click there. That's an important step, because what that does is that resets the power or the throttle levers back here into the cutoff state, which is a key step in ensuring that the engines will actually start, is that they are in that cutoff state when we try to start them. So first thing I do here in the cockpit is to turn off the yokes. We're going to need access to the left side of the instrument panel, the tilt panel, the right side of the instrument panel, of course the APU operation over here in the right side wall. So with that, the next thing we're going to do is start moving through the APU ground checklist, and the very first item is to turn on the battery. So the battery comes on. We need to clear out our cautions here, but we'll need to make sure that we have a minimum of 24 volts, and we have exactly 24 volts, so we're okay to go through the start process. Next thing we do is the APU master switch comes on, all zeros here. If you want, you can press the APU test button. That should do several things. APU fire, the APU fail light, APU relay engaged, bleed valve open, ready to load light comes on, and the APU generator off light should come on. Some of those are simulated, some of them are not. It doesn't matter. But to turn that off, then press this button a second time, and it will turn off the test. Okay. So next thing we do is APU generator should be off. It is. We should not have any bleed air. That should also be off. It is. So we'll use this spring-loaded switch to go into the start position. It'll spring out into the run position now. You notice the RPMs are increasing, the EGT is increasing, no voltage, it's not loaded right now. This will keep climbing. It will go up to 98%, not 100, but 98%. When it gets there, just like that, now we can proceed with the the loading process. This should now say that it's ready to load. It doesn't, but we'll go ahead and hit the bleed air switch. Now you'll see the ready to load comes on, so we can turn on the generator. DC voltage comes on. It should settle down at 28 volts here. Eventually it will climb up to that. So we're getting APU bleed air. We're also getting our voltage coming in now. So we can proceed. So now we can move on to the engine start checklist. And that goes like this. Passenger briefings completed. Battery switch to on. It's already on. Generator switches need to be on or off if we're using a GPU, but we're using the APU, so we'll go generator switches to on. Emergency lights armed. Parking brake is set. We've got that on. Wheel chocks have been, well, we'll assume that our ground crew did its thing. Remove those. Cabin door shut. Seatbelts, shoulder harnesses, pedals, all that should be adjusted. Not applicable. Obviously, windows, not applicable. Floodlights, full bright if it's nighttime. It's not. Standby power on the gyro goes on. Exterior lights down here in the tilt panel. So exterior lights, we're going to turn the beacon on, which is called ground rec. And we can also turn passenger safety on as well. Okay. And we want to just make sure our nav lights are also on, since we're going to be powering the aircraft. Enunciators, this is about what we'd expect. I'm not going to run through the test or anything like that. We'll assume that that's already been done. Now we're ready to start. Doesn't matter which engine you start. However, I've found that it's easier to start the left engine first, just because of where you need to click in order to access the throttle or the power levers down here. So we'll go ahead and do that. So generator switches, we already checked those. Those are on. APU generator is on. We're getting our 28 volts. APU bleed air is on or off. It's on for now. That's fine. As long as it's not a max cold as a checklist item, we should be good to go. So like I said, we're going to do left engine first. Press the left button here. Notice that our N1 and N2 starts rising. We're looking for at least 8% on the N2, which we have. Now what you want to do is click on the back end of this lever here, and that's going to take the engine out of, or sorry, the throttle out of that detent. Now we can watch, we all of a sudden have 208 pounds per hour fuel flow. We're starting to get N2 rising, N1's rising, and our ITT is coming up as well. Actually, it's not changing, it's staying just a little over 700, but it's below the red line, so we know we're good. So looking for hot starts, looking for hung starts, that sort of thing. It looks fine here. Annunciators for oil pressure and fuel pressure have turned off. So that looks like a good start to me. Engine's at idle. Let's do number 2. Okay, again, the generator is already on. Start switch comes on. 8%, there it is. And again, clicking on the back of this lever here moves it over the detent. And here we go, N2's rising, N1's rising. There all of a sudden is our fuel flow, and of course we have the ignition, so ITT's rising as well. For our oil pressure light to go off, which it does there, and so we've got a good start on both engines. Go ahead and turn on the avionics. So this is now part of the before taxi flow, so avionics power can come on. Now, one thing that I found with the Carenado, again, this is the GTN 750 merge, is sometimes it will not turn on. At least on my system, I don't know if others are experiencing this or not, but sometimes it won't turn on if you've got the APU generator energized. So I'm going to turn the APU off at this point. We've got 2 good starts. Engines are self-sustaining at this point, so we're not too worried. Use the switch in the lower left of the APU subpanel to turn it off. If you don't, the state will persist for your next startup. You'll still have numbers up here even though the APU is not running. So APU goes off, watch it wind down. I can turn off the generator as well. And I'm going to let this go ahead and get all the way down, or at least past 50%. Just go and turn off the master. And I'll show you what I was talking about with the GTN. Note the GTN has not come up yet, so we're going to try this little kind of hacky way of getting it to come up, and it should hopefully work. Alright, we'll turn that off. The other thing I want to do, just to make sure I've got the GTN in a state where it might start up, is to reset the generators. So right click down, and then it comes back up. Now I'm going to reset the avionics master, and we'll see if the GTN comes up, and it does. So that's kind of a little trick that I've found that allows this aircraft to start up. I'll cover more the next segments in flight here in subsequent videos, but just wanted to, like I said, make a quick video to show everyone kind of the tricks of starting the aircraft.
TOS system test okay.